Stephen Miller feels a little bit more desperate than usual. Oh, he comes out like an innocent American being shot and he's throwing around assassin this, massacre that. But a couple days later, all of a sudden, his rhetoric is sounding a little bit different. I think that he fears he could potentially lose his position. I don't think he's confident he'll lose his position, and certainly I'm not. But he's being a little bit more careful with his language than I can ever remember him being. And remember what he said after Alex was gunned down in Minneapolis. An assassin tried to murder federal agents, and this is your response. Confidently stating an absolutely insane and irrational, emotional, hysterical stance of his because he thought it would be convenient. And now all of a sudden he's backtracking. Miller apparently claimed that the White House had provided clear guidance to DHS that the extra personnel that had been sent to Minnesota for force protection should be used for conducting fugitive operations to create a physical barrier between the arrest teams and the disruptors. We're evaluating why the CBP team may not have been following that protocol. It's strange. You seem to think they were following the protocol just fine after they gunned him down, just fine after they shot a single mom in the face multiple times. You didn't seem to have a problem with the protocol then. You were kind of gloating, kind of celebrating. All of a sudden, mistakes might have been made. Not by me. Never by me. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't even say anything wrong. But those anonymous people that you don't get to know who they are, they might have done something. Let's not really investigate or anything, but maybe they did something wrong. He does not usually speak in these terms. And by the way, in terms of the messaging that came out immediately after the killing, there's new reporting by Axios. Immediately after Pretti was fatally shot in Minneapolis, administration officials in Washington knew they had a potential disaster on their hands, but had little information. The officers directly involved in the shooting, quote, all shut up and got lawyers real quick. So there wasn't a lot of information. I mean, what you could do in this case is arrest them and begin questioning them because they just murdered someone. Instead, it's like, they don't want to cooperate. What are you gonna do, I guess? Anyway, the CBP officers on the ground furnished a report that White House officials told Axios left officials with the belief that Pretti had brandished a gun. Miller, quote, heard gun and knew what the narrative would be. Pretti came to massacre cops, a source briefed on the process of assembling the press statement said. So that stuff from Bovino and everything, I'm sure Bovino had no problem claiming without evidence that that's what this was, but apparently it was Stephen Miller that came up with that. And so he's not just commenting from the sidelines, this is the guy who's leading it. And anyway, look, a lot of people I think very rightly want him out. He's insane. He's like the most explicitly fascistic member of the Trump regime. He should be nowhere near government power. He shouldn't be in charge of his own affairs, let alone ours. But if you are confident that he'll get fired, here is Lindsey Graham to perhaps pour some cold water on that.
As to Stephen Miller, to my colleagues who believe that you can convince Donald Trump that Stephen Miller is a liability for him, good luck with that. When this clock strikes 12 on the Trump era, there'll be a few people walking out the door with Donald Trump. Stephen Miller will be in that group.
Yeah, and so I love disagreeing with Lindsey Graham, not as much as I love mocking him, but I do love disagreeing with him. But yeah, Trump seems to like Stephen Miller. Remember, a lot of people were saying that he's basically the shadow president, that Trump weirdly can't turn against Stephen Miller. I don't know why. I don't know if Stephen Miller bit him on the neck or something. I don't know what hold he has over him, Sharon, but I'm not confident he's going away despite how utterly monstrous he is. What do you think?
I too hate agreeing with Lindsey Graham, but he's right. Stephen Miller is like a pacifier to Trump, the baby, or he's a blanket to Trump as Linus, okay, and the Peanuts character. They need each other. They're warm and cozy and fuzzy together, as gross as that sounds. And he can't separate from him. He's the brain and Trump is, I mean, he's also the terror, but Trump is mostly just the terror without the brain. And so they have to commingle and coexist with one another. And so he goes nowhere. I do think it's positive, and you're right to point it out, when Stephen Miller, this arrogant, whatever, fill in the blank, starts moonwalking back some things. For him, that was saying a lot. It's never gonna be, I'm sorry. It's never gonna be, I was wrong. It's never gonna have any accountability that I was part of that. But he is saying things that mean, okay, the blowback is working to whatever extent, we don't know, but it's actually penetrated their little evil bubble to the point where he's stepping up and saying some things.
Yeah. They do seem a little bit worried, perhaps even more worried than they've been about like the Epstein files or about the effect of the tariffs or about the government shutdown, the health insurance explosion that's happening. This is the thing that seems to be penetrating. By the way, I like Fiasco Dragon says Stephen Miller's worm tongue. Jasper Katz called him gross Ferratu. I love that Nosferatu is not enough. We need to amp it up another layer, but I don't disagree.